hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
It is Judd's Hockey Show. Now, before you get too excited, Bill Guerin joined us last week. You can obviously still go and watch that episode, but you are just stuck with three of us this week. It's Judd, it's AJ, it is, of course, Jessi Pierce of Bardown Beauties fame. We are a week out. Next week, the Wild hits the ice. Training camp is going to be here, so we will have more to talk about then. But guys, I want to hit you with the final off-season 5-pack of questions, because that's right. I formulated 5 more questions for us to answer as the season draws near. Are you ready?
Always. I just would like to point out I was on time today. Judd was not, but I was late.
I was
on time
recording the Twin Show with our guy Trevor Plouffe. I was late. I was tardy. Jessi was not.
Just wanted to make that clear.
So you changed the day, or I changed. I'm sorry.
Changed the day.
I changed the day and the time, and Jessi Pierce was available, which is a miracle, and was on time. And I guess her kids are back at school, so we will not hear I thought it was great to hear your kids playing. I mean, it's great to hear children laughing. I think, are very pleased that they will not be in the background or potentially coming in to sit on your lap during the course of the show.
Thrilled. I'm thrilled. And training camp next week. Tom Curver's showcase this weekend, too. Prospects are getting back on the ice tomorrow.
In St. Louis, right?
They'll be in St. Louis,
Arena?
No, but so that's where they'll play it for the weekend, but they will be at Tria for the next couple of days, warming up, getting ready to take on the Blues and the Blackhawks. So
very nice. Very nice. All right. 5-pack of questions. Let's start with this one. Jessi, we'll start with you. Where do you expect the Wild to be most improved? There are a lot of areas after this team missed the playoffs, a lot of areas for improvement. Where do you think the greatest improvement will come? It can be big, it can be small. Just what is your feeling about that?
I mean, the obvious, I'm going to say too, because the big obvious one, I think defense, you're getting Jared Spurgeon back, right? I think that's going to be your biggest area of improvement. Hopefully so, God willing. It'll be great. Alex Goligoski retiring into the sunset as well. That's going to be the big obvious one. But I think special teams, I think they recognized how poor special teams was in the offseason. Bill Guerin's made that a priority. John Hines has made that a priority. You've got Capiano.
Yep.
Jack C. I'm going to call him Jackie C.
Jack C, that's fine.
Jack C. Yep.
I know who you're talking about now, so it doesn't matter.
I'm talking about who should come in and help. He's got familiarity with Hines, but I think that's going to be a main priority, especially the PK is figuring that out. And even on the power play, playing with some different players in some different spots. I think John Hines is really going to put his fingerprints there. So special teams, let's go. Let's not stink this year on special teams on PK or power play. That would be nice, right? It'd be kind of fun.
Oh yeah. You think so? Yeah, it'd be really nice.
Yeah, penalty has to be the biggest one, just because, frankly, the room for growth, it's so much bigger than everywhere else. You couldn't get much worse than they were last season. I think third to last in the league for penalty kill percentage. It was just it was terrible. I'm gonna say maybe face-off dot. I think face-off.
I was gonna say, yeah. Mm-hmm. Finally,
I'm a face-off cinephile or whatever. I'm obsessed with starting with the puck. The face-offs is an art that I feel like people overlook nowadays. Yep. Husnudinov should be getting regular time on the ice, regular additions to that face-off dot, and we've seen him in his short tenure with the Wild last season. He seems like maybe not a specialist, but he at least seems competent, and that's all I'm asking them to be. I just go out there with some sort of plan, not just go out there and it's okay, maybe I'll slap the stick, maybe I'll go after the puck, maybe somebody's going to come in from the wing. No, go out there with a plan, and I think that is something that they have worked on in addition to kind of the penalty kill, the power play and whatnot. It's just as important because if you want to be on either one of those, you want to start with the puck. And it's the most important, overlooked aspect, I think, in all of hockey. Not penalty, but the face-off dot, I think has to be it has to be the biggest improvement, just because they're going to have people that seemingly more competent on the face-off dot this season.
And Jess, who do you think is going to assume the coaching of that? That was Darby's ballot.
That was Darby's. Yep. Darby was in charge of the face-off. I would bet Jason King, I think probably slides in there is what I'm sensing. So I think he worked with that a little bit with Darbs. But again, having not been around the squad, but that would be my guess would be Jason King.
So, we trust you. Insider, Jessi Pierce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're there more than we are. Okay. So we trust you completely. So I wrote down 3 things. and you guys took 2 of them. But my third thing was this: goaltending. I think the goaltending is going to be improved. First
Is that
of all,
because you think there might be a subtraction at some point early in the year?
Well, first of all, well, to be fair here, and I think Jess brought this up from her sources at the end of last year. Part of the problem with Gus is he wasn't in shape. And so I would expect if he's not in shape next week when he arrives at Tria, something's very wrong. So, when this guy was in shape 2 years ago, he played pretty well. Now, would I be shocked if he's traded during camp to a team like, let's say, the Canucks? No. But if he's not traded, I fully expect that he is going to play far more like he did 2 years ago than he did last year. Wallstedt, I'm curious about. I think it's in my opinion that he is prepared to at least be given an opportunity to take the step. And he is, clearly going to be a very important part of this team, if not this season, then going forward. And I think if this all works and Flower can play as much as he probably should at his age, he will give you a professional presence in goal. And I think he will also be a magnificent pseudo goaltending coach.
Yeah.
So I just think the fact that I think when Wallstedt showed up here originally, not here, but with the team and then went and played in Des Moines, I was told same problem as Gus, out of shape, like just in bad shape. And so, and I mean, we've seen that before with Dubnyk. Guys come in out of shape and you can't stop the puck as well. So I think we're going to see, I'm not saying it's going to be they're going to shoot to the top 5, but I do think it's going to be markedly improved. And I do think that they will hopefully go back to getting saves when they need to. Because last year it felt like there were so many times, and I'm not saying the simple saves, I'm saying a hard save. Like you look at teams that, this league, you got some really good goaltenders now. So,
and I was nice to the goalies last year, and I said it was a porous defense, which I stand by. I think the defense had some mighty struggles,
but they
right?
still
And
weren't good.
No, they still weren't. So it's only room for up. Being in shape for Gus will also help him avoid injury. I think once Gus got injured too, that really derailed a lot of things because that kind of threw off your whole tandem plan. You were like, all right, now it's Marc-Andre Fleury's net up, but Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't play well in October, according to Marc-Andre Fleury. It's just, there were a number of problems as to why the season derailed, but that was a large one without question.
And we need you to go back to being negative about the goalies because they were far superior when you were pissed off, as opposed to nice Jessi, which got you nothing in between the pipes. All right, question 2, AJ, we'll start with you this time. Where do you see potential regression coming? Where are you a little bit concerned that there might be regression? This can be a unit, this can be a player, this can be whatever you want.
As much as I hate to say it, probably a Matt Zuccarello regression. I know he's getting older, and I feel like he sneakily had a really good season last year. Like as much as I kind of want to get on his case about having to play with Kirill, but even when he wasn't, he was still setting up like a Matt Boldy or his other line mates to just prop them up with his passing ability. I feel like at a certain point that is going to get just the age slowing down is going to probably catch up to him. This is a guy that has battled injuries in the past, and for the most part, he seemed very healthy last season. But at a certain point, that you're going to fall off the edge of the table, and whether it's, straight to the ground or maybe you stop at the chair first and then you roll on to a bench and then whatever. At a certain point, you're going to start seeing that regression. I think this maybe is the year, because if you look at last season, he had 63 points, 51 assists.
It didn't feel like it.
And that's the thing. It's a very underwhelming, as weird as that sounds, 63 points. I don't see him getting close to 51 assists again this year. Maybe if he does trade that off with shooting the puck a little more often, he's going to get more than the 12 goals that he had. But I just feel like you're going to see that kind of back down. And if you get to 50 points from him, are you going to be happy? No, but you're going to have to maybe be satisfied, because I do think at a certain point you're going to see everything just kind of teeter off.
What line is he on then, Jessi?
Matt Zuccarello.
Yeah, well,
he's on the top line with Kirill Kaprizov is what's going to happen.
To start to see, right, but if he regresses, if he starts to
where
show
does he
age,
move to?
Yeah, does he stay there? Is my question.
I think they're going to try that out for as long as they possibly can. I think they seem very committed to that idea because they recognize that they need help to help Matt Zuccarello. I think it's less of a concern about Kaprizov. I think it's to keep Matt Zuccarello on the up and up. So I think until he gets completely depleted or until he's almost a liability out there on the top line, I think they will keep him up there for as long as they possibly can. Because I think they'll even a couple bad games, they're going to say, well, it's going to reignite. It's going to reignite.
Yeah.
They're going to keep hitting that fire starter, right? And it's just going to keep giving little sparks, just enough to stay there. And I took a book out of AJ's and tried to do a little.
Very good. That was good. That was very
Thank
good.
you. So, but I mean, he'll always be a top 6 forward for them.
I have a problem with that though, is like, if you do notice, we've seen this with some other guys where it's like, they're just not, they don't earn that role, right? They don't earn those top line minutes. They don't earn those top 6 minutes. And I'm not saying he hasn't earned those minutes, but I'm saying if you notice that he shouldn't be probably slotted on the top line.
Yeah, I hear you.
At a certain point, it harms Kirill and his production. Like, you shouldn't have, like, it's the sacrifice of, okay, you're going to have a better Matt Zuccarello, but you're not going to have the peak of Kirill Kaprizov. So you're weighing those. And I feel like at the end of the day, I'd rather have Kirill at full potential with the right people rather than a slightly better, slightly more enhanced, just milking the last amount of really good hockey out of Matt Zuccarello.
Absolutely. Jessi,
Fair.
regression, where do you think?
I say this, but take it with a grain of salt when I say this name, you guys. I need us all to take a collective breath after I say it. I'm going to say Brock Faber. Now, I'm only saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I thought of this too.
I'm
I
only
couldn't do
saying
it, but I thought of it.
I'm gonna be the bad guy here. Has nothing to do with my lack of trust in him. I have complete faith in him. He is going to be great. He is going to be phenomenal. He is going to be one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. He's going to get less minutes because you have Jared Spurgeon now returning. Plus, I think they're going to try to get him to play a very much more offensively minded role, which I think is good. But you're going to see a little bit, not to mention now this is year 2 for Brock Faber. Opponents know what to expect. They kind of know how to deal with him a little bit better. That's the only reason. Again, it's not a knock on Brock.
Don't backpedal. You said Brock Faber.
I like Brock Faber, but those are the reasons. The reasons are sound. It's not because I'm concerned with him not being a good player. I'm not concerned at all. I think it's just the literal facts of it. You're going to see less time, so you're going to see less points in production. And you're going to have now familiarity with him from the opposition. They know that he is the shutdown defenseman. If they move him to a more offensively minded D-man too, that's just a little out of Brock's comfort zone. Similar to like Brodin. We saw Brodin struggle when they wanted him to play that type of role. And I think Fabes will do similar. So just an itty bitty little bit of a regression, guys. I'm sorry.
I did think of this. It crossed my mind.
And you
Next, you're
chickened
gonna be
out.
saying,
I wasn't going to do it. Not to the
47
local
points.
Kid. You
I mean,
call him
39.
Fabes, and then you just said you expect him to. Brock, if you're watching this, and I'm sure that you are, Jessi Pierce right there, huh?
next you're going to be begging him to get LASIK so he can't wear his patented glasses anymore. I mean, come on, Jessi. My goodness.
It's just going to be a smidge. It's
Okay.
going to be a smidge.
I'm going to go down not as hot a take a path, but I'm going to go down a path similar. I'm going to say Marco Rossi, and here's why.
I thought of him too.
21 goals, 40 points, 82 games. And that's a pretty damn good year. And what did we hear about? Well, they might trade him. And by the way, from some credible sources too. This was not just, some type of Twitter fan made up thing. I don't know that they really appreciate him. I don't think that they love his size for his position. I don't know that he has a long-term future here. I mean, it definitely sounds like they took some phone calls or were certainly willing to make some calls. And he had a really nice year. But now we're going to have a whole year of John Hines. And John Hines, starting next week, is going to look at a whole ton of players, right? And I just wonder what Marco's role, I mean, Eck is for sure there, right? And after that, I'm curious how the centers fall. So I think Marco Rossi might take a step back because I'm not sure that they really subscribe to him, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they love him. I like him personally, had a nice year. I think he definitely has the ability to contribute. But, you always have those guys who, like the new coach doesn't really appreciate and things like that. Feel like he falls into that category. And because of that, I think there might be a regression, partially his fault probably, but also his role as well.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say the same thing, but everybody thinks I have a hard on for Marco Rossi, that I'm always giving him a hard time. I'm not. I'm not.
First time you've said it. Wow. Okay.
It's every week. Every time I bring up his name, they're like, "Gosh, she's all over the kid." I'm not. I don't.
Oh, you picked Brock Faber.
I
You
did.
just
I
took
did.
Minnesota's favorite son.
I was gonna say Marco though too, because I agree for just what you said. I think it depends on the role that he is given this year. And you're right. There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect. I think they wanted Marco to succeed because he's a first round pick, but then they don't know that they had the complete faith, the complete investment in him necessarily. Because as you'd mentioned, Judd, to have even those trade rumors circulating as hot as they were, I mean, there was definitely some fire to them, right? There just was never any gas fully put on. I think it's got to be a little of a mind F for him as well, right? Like I've done everything you guys have asked, and here I am, and you're still going to put me down on the second, maybe even the third line,
right,
to not give me any compatible players. So it'll be interesting. I think he'll have a very good year, but yeah, I think it'll be a little off for Marco just to see how he responds to even everything in the role that they give him.
Absolutely.
It's going to come down to who he gets paired up with. I think like opening night, because if it's slotting out where you're having that probably that like reunion of Zuccarello and Kaprizov on the top line, if he gets paired on a line, I think with Matt Boldy, I think he's probably going to go the other way, and I think he'll probably improve. I'm going to stand by Marco Rossi until he's like no longer on the roster. I like him a lot.
I don't know if they like him as much as we like him,
and that's the problem. But the kid's 22, and given his like health history, he's kind of at like the age 20, 21 for like development. He played a full season, all 82 games. He was just under half point a game with 40 points. I feel like he's going to keep going upwards. I feel like 21 goals, it was more than I was expecting, but I think his playmaking ability is going to be what maybe takes an uptick this year. So I would fight that. I think he'll probably get closer to 50 points this year and keep kind of on the right progression path.
I hope so. If you know what, who gets saddled with the anchor, Marcus Johansson? That's my question.
And that's going to be the anchor of his career probably. If he gets paired up with him, then it's like, all right, well, not much we can do for you, Marco. But if he gets with a competent scoring guy that he can just feed the puck to, who can finish like Matt Boldy, then I think that's going to be just fine.
All right. Question number 3. Central Division question. In fact, back-to-back ones here. First of all, Jessi, which Central Division team do you think will surprise in this jumbled
for a good
division?
Surprise or a bad surprise, right?
We'll start with good, and then the next question is regress or slump. Which Central Division do you think will be a pleasant surprise?
A pleasant surprise.
In the
I got a lot of flack for being so hard on Utah, right? But I think a lot of people are putting some money on them, thinking that Utah is going to bounce back up. I like the jerseys. First of all, I'm just going to say it. I dig the jerseys. I love those colors.
And then they have a new one next year with the team name. Excuse me.
I'm fine with it. I think that brings back like it's the North Carolina colors for me, right? That nice, pretty baby blue with a little bit of black. I don't mind the Utah screen print. I'm just saying, we're going to put that out there. But I think Utah will be better than Arizona. I mean, they still have some really good pieces. They're kind of a hodgepodge of this young talent. We got Logan Cooley out there. You've got Lawson Krause out there. So it'll be interesting to see Clayton Keller and how he does it, Nick Bukestad, and if he can do a heck of a whole lot too. I think they will bounce up a little bit. It's either them or I'm going to say it because I love them and I wish this into fruition every single year. The Anaheim Ducks, quack, quack, quack. Oh, wait, they're not in the Central.
They're not in the Central Division. They're not. And your whole thing is you just like the movie.
Just love
You just like the movie. It has nothing to do with the team.
That was silly of me. Oh, my God.
But you did get the quack, quack, quack in.
I do. God, I don't know why. I just needed to say their names. Utah, I keep forgetting, is in the Central, right? Like that's a weird thing to me.
They're the Coyotes' direct replacement. Yep. So because the Coyotes were shifted to the Central when Seattle came into the Pacific.
I can't wait for my trolls to be like, we knew she doesn't know.
Yeah, she doesn't know hockey. She doesn't know anything about hockey.
Utah. It's Utah.
Yeah, no, we don't question you. We've all made that mistake.
That was silly. That's
okay. It's okay. I'm sure AJ won't clip it and like show it.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to happen.
You know how many texts I've gotten like, God, that was the best episode ever. And I was like, I didn't even say anything. They're like, we know. It was great to listen to Billy just rip on you. And I was like, okay, thank you. These are my friends, by the way, that enjoy that.
Oh, I'm sure Kirsten loved it.
Oh, she does. That's her favorite part of every episode of everything we ever do is people just ripping on me.
Yeah, it's so unfair. So unfair. Okay, AJ Fredrickson, who do you expect to be improved in the Central? We're just sticking with the Central Division.
Just so not Anaheim. They're off the table.
No, you can't have Anaheim. You can't have the
Okay,
Sharks.
all right.
No.
I'll take the obvious answer. Nashville Predators. I mean, they made some big signings this offseason. I think they might be a little light up the middle because they go Ryan O'Reilly and then they go Tommy Novak as their center two. Like he's fine. Colton Sissons is there.
Yeah,
he's a nice player. I like
a lot of
but like I don't know if he can go a full 82 games. You know that's but their wing depth I think is great. If you look at the right, they're gonna go Nyquist. They got Marcia Show. I like Luke Evangelista a lot. Like I think that's a great like depth guy that on any team you're thinking, wow, it's awesome we have him on the roster. And I think Stamkos, like it's gonna be so weird adjusting to see him in something other than lightning blue. But God, him in Nashville, right? But him in Forsberg, kind of like that 1-2 left wing punch is gonna be so much fun to watch. Yep. I like their goaltending. Saros is great. I know they just got. They traded Askarov out to San Jose, so they don't have to like worry about that anymore. The Saros is their guy, and their defense, like Roman Josi, just I hate when he comes to town because he just makes it a point to stick it to the Wild every single game. Good. Brady Shea's now there. You know, they just have a good roster, and I wish that I could look at their jerseys for more than 5 seconds because like I'm gonna want to watch them play, but it's just so ugly to watch aesthetically. But I think Nashville. Play-wise, they're going to be a greatly improved team. I even see them probably locking up like one of the top 3 spots.
Interesting.
I always like my problem with Nashville is they do this to me every year. Every offseason, they are making some ginormous move. And I love Barry Trotz and I like him as a coach. I like him as a general manager too. I think he does a nice job. But every year I put all this money in on Nashville and every year they find a way to disappoint me. Like even last season, not that it was disappointing per se, but I thought they were going to be better because you're right. On paper, that team is stacked. Like Stamkos, I think, has a little bit of ire in him. He's going to show everybody that, hey, he's still got it. Tampa should have kept me around, yada, yada. And as you mentioned, all the names listed. But I always am so cautious because I'm just like, no, every year I'm convinced that this is your year. And every year they just sadly disappoint me. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
And they're stacked. They're stacked with names, but they're not. But they're old. Like they're like it's going to be. I'm just curious. Are there going to be a few guys that go off the cliff? Now, my guess is they don't. But because it's an exciting to what Age is saying roster to look at. Okay, that leaves me with I think one choice because I could take the Blues, but I think the Blues are going to be bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to take, and I do this every year, and one of these years, and I'm not saying this team is going to be great, but I do think that they're going to be a surprise. And considering they had 52 points, a surprise could be just basically being good and competitive. The Blackhawks. The Blackhawks have to finally, like, you look at everything that they've got, and I mean, they have been in I'm all for tearing it down, and I think Bedard is going to be fantastic now. Like that first year, I think he's going to come back with a knowledge of how the league works. I think Chicago takes a step. I don't know their playoff step. That's a lot to ask, but I think that they have been at the bottom of the division for what, 3 years now, Jessi? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think Chicago takes a step. I think Chicago looks like a real team and it's been far too long since they appeared to be a real team. Okay. Flip side, Age Central team that will slump. So Dallas.
I'm going to go
Jets,
opposite. I'm going to go opposite of you. I still think the Blackhawks are going to be really, really bad. Okay. Connor Bedard's going to be super fun to watch, but I just don't see where a lot of their other like production is going to be coming from. Like Tyler Bertuzzi, sure, he's fun, but he's also kind of physical. And I know I was big on him, kind of for the Wild, maybe to try to go after.
Yeah, take him.
I like him.
We take him.
It's just.
We take him. Bertuzzi, we take him.
I would absolutely take him, but it's just like, I don't know. Like I'm looking at their line projections here. I just don't see where they're going to do too much. And especially on the back end, like, is Seth Jones going to have like a great year that he's eating?
But you signed that top Michigan State defenseman.
Yeah.
Korchinski?
Or Timmy or.
Yeah,
don't make me do this. Don't make me do this.
The top draft.
Oh yeah, left
draft pick. Yeah.
I forgot.
Don't make her do that.
Don't make me do this. I have to write names. I can spell them.
And now you're going to clip that too. No,
Levshinov's tough. I'll let
By the way, I'm not saying that they're going to be great. I just think that they're going to be improved finally.
Yeah, they're not going to look like a dumpster fire, but they're going to look like They're going to look like a normal dumpster. Like, sure, they're going to win some games, but they're not going to be on fire. I just don't. I think people are expecting them to probably take a step because now they've added a couple years in a row good talent. Yeah. I still think they're just going to be really, really bad.
Doubting Thomas. Doubting AJ.
That's me.
All right, Jessi. Who you got?
Winnipeg Jets. I love me some Jets. Go Jets, go. But I just think they're going to take a step back. They're kind of this. They're not a dumpster fire, I would say, but they're a really weird mess. They've got Capo Kakinen now to back up Connor Hellebuyck. I love Connor Hellebuyck, though. And that's the thing. The players that are very, very good on their roster are all a little bit old. They still got Mark Scheifele who can do his thing. Nino Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, Josh Morrissey. But that's just it. There's not any youthful talent really being injected into that. So I think they're going to take a step back. I think they're probably still a playoff team, but I think them along with Minnesota and St. Louis are kind of your really weird spot. I don't know how they're going to be, right? I think those three teams are very similar in their build heading into this season, where it's like you could either be decent or you're going to be bad. There's not really being a good, it's just being like fine.
Right.
So I think Winnipeg probably takes a little bit of a step back, and they've got a whole new coaching situation to deal with as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that, especially again with some of those longtime familiar faces there. So Winnipeg Jets, you're going to take a little bump down.
Yeah, their goaltender is so good.
He's so good.
Especially in the regular season. But I could see that. I could see that. Yeah. All right. Dallas is good, I think. I think they're just flat out good. I don't see them. No, I stop, Jessi. Stop.
They're so good.
Oh, my God. Colorado is still very, very good. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say Nashville. I'm going to say it blows up. I'm going to say Stamkos over the cliff. As much as I love him, and I have a man crush on ROR, Ryan O'Reilly is fantastic.
The factor.
Minnesota Wild team member.
He's 52. His number should be retired here. But you know what? I would take the
greatest center they've ever had.
Put on Ryan O'Reilly and say, we had him for 30 seconds, so we're keeping his number up there. But he's 52 years old. He's like my age by now.
52 years old.
He's like 54. He's my age.
Disrespect.
So I'm going to say the Predators, because I think Dallas, the Avs are good. I agree with you on the Jets as well. And I don't think the Blues are going to be like they didn't make the playoffs, but they were actually in the Central, the first team out. I don't think the Blues are going to be good this year. So
right.
I've not heard a lot of anticipation about the Blues. All right. Give me one more, but there's a contingency here. Give me a Wild player who you think might be moved during the course of the season, and it has to be a surprise, i.e. Philip Gustafson's off the table.
Sure.
Give me a Wild player. So you wake up one day and you got a press release or a Elliot Friedman bomb or a Darren Drager bomb, Jessi Pierce.
Kevin Weeks is at Niagara Falls. Breaking Minnesota Wild news.
Hockey fans.
Hockey fans.
Hockey fans. So anyway, give me a name. Give me a player that you think might be moved in season and can't be Gustafsson, because I think none of us would be surprised by that.
And I feel like we have to say no Freddie either, because I don't think
and Freddie can't be a surprise.
I
forgot
right?
he was on the team.
Yeah, that's sad. I don't know if this is a hot take, because again, I'm keeping Marco Rossi's name out of my mouth. I'm going to say Declan Chisholm, possibly, right? I don't think he's got any protection. I liked what I saw from him last year. I wouldn't want that necessarily, but that to me would be a big surprise. I think this year is going to be a very kind of determining season for him, right? Again, he was put on waivers by Winnipeg for a reason. They had too many numbers, whatever. And I think Minnesota's really trying to build their defense back up. And I think Chisholm hasn't really been solidified as a big piece of that just yet. So I think I could see him being a player. He's, again, one of the few players that they're allowed to move without a whole lot of stipulation too. So I think that's maybe my kind of easy out going with him, but I would be surprised. And I think that would be him having a tough go, and maybe it's not pairing well with Bogosian too. I think that'll be a really interesting D pair. Again, you might say, hey, he's a third defensive pairing anyway, but it still would be a surprise to me. So Declan Chisholm, hope it doesn't happen. I hope he continues to grow off of what we saw glimpses of last year.
Don't. It's too late. You've already said Brock Faber is your regression guy. It's too late. Just keep the hot takes going.
I haven't even gone into camp yet. I need to make sure the guys want to talk to me for at least a day.
They don't watch this show.
No, they're subscribed. They have just like all of our good listeners. They're subscribed.
Declan
They've got
Chisholm,
the bell notification on. They like the videos.
Drop in a comment. saying how you feel about Jessi Pierce putting your name out there as a surprise trade. My guess is we will not hear from Declan.
Probably
AJ,
not.
AJ, what do you think?
Oh, this is just such a tough question because, like, I'm looking over Puckpedia, my new best friend. Thank you, Capitals, for killing my other beloved. But there's just not a lot of options. Like,
No,
there's so
there's
many
not.
guys that just cannot be moved.
Well, get creative.
Here's my creativity. I would not love. I'm not. That's the wrong word. But
Love.
my first one would have been Jake Middleton if they didn't just extend him because he's able to be moved this year before his new contract kicks in and
they
he
won't do
cannot
it.
be traded. So this would be the year. It's probably more than likely going to be a Zach Bogosian, though, when they inevitably at some point don't look like they're in the playoff picture, can't make a push. He's 34 years old.
Great one.
That's a leader. That's a physical guy. He's kind of built for playoff hockey. That's a guy that I think at $1.25 million is going to be such an easy deal for Billy to say, hey, yeah, you want to go compete one more time? Probably. Absolutely. We'll make that happen. And then he's under control for another year at $1.25 million. So it makes sense. So I'd say Zach Bogosian.
Okay. Here's mine. Very creative. I don't even know if this qualifies as an official surprise. So shoot me
Who's
down
waving? Who's waving it?
If you think it doesn't. Deadline deal, Zuccarello.
I knew he was going there. I
Zuccarello
knew. You
to-
want this. You want this to happen.
I want it for him. I want it for Matt. He deserves this.
Judd's been calling the Rangers every other day.
He's
Like, hey, don't forget
beloved.
about Matt's out here.
I talked to Jury yesterday. I mean, we're all set. Deadline deal. Zuccarello goes home. Gets to end his career on Broadway. He is so popular there. Like, he's achieved a fame. Now, I do think he is well liked by his teammates here. But, I mean, I don't think he's like a crowd favorite here. The New York fans love this dude. You know, in the right setting, on the right line with a playoff team, I think he can have a nice run still. So, deadline trade, Matt's waves, goodbye. Kirill's like, I love you. Matt says, I love you too, but I got to go home. I got to go
Kirill
back.
signs with the Rangers and
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
There's Pierce. Unbelievable show for Jessi Pierce.
Unhinged.
Just 99 mile an hour fastballs because you know what? Maybe, who knows? Well, it was interesting when Billy, on last week's show, in response to Age's question, basically, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he basically said, we're not talking contracts yet.
yeah.
Well, now, I don't buy that totally. I think that they probably are sniffing around it. But anyway, I mean, who knows?
That got people up in arms too. I saw those guys like, oh, how have they not talked contracts? I'm like, well, he's not going to tell us anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Bill Guerin and I have no repertoire. He can lie to my face. I don't care. And I hope he has, because frankly, like, if I'm sitting on my couch seeing like, oh my God, you know, if Draisaitl just signed, I gotta wonder what they've had conversations, I am sure, and like whether that's super progressed or not, whatever. But you know, we're not tight yet. We're gonna get to a point where he's comfortable sharing that information on the show.
It won't
But
be
not
on.
yet.
It won't be on the show though. It'll be on background. But anyway, so I'm gonna say Zuki, Rangers, March, playoff run there, and then hopefully Jesse's completely wrong and Kirill does not decide to bail and go to the Rangers a couple years after that.
It's just a funny thing to say.
They announced his 8-year extension.
It sort of scared me.
Yeah.
5 minutes apart on the timeline. Thank you, Zuccarello.
I'll tell you
blah, blah,
this.
blah. 8 more years of Kirill. Boom.
I will say this. You cannot have Kirill go into his last year here a la Gabrick without some type of resolution on the contract.
Right.
Because if you trade him at the deadline, you're not going to get nearly what you should.
Right. Peanuts.
And like a season of Kirill elsewhere, which I do not want. But like if he's not coming back here, you got to trade him. But hopefully it all gets done. Hopefully
We'll save that panic for a year from now.
Exactly right. That'll be a future podcast. In fact, that might be 10 future Judd's hockey shows. This was one, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. Jessi, AJ, Judd, we'll see you next week. Training camp starting.